Topic 11, Lesson 6, Comparing Fractions. Well, so far you've learned to use fraction strips to find equivalent fractions. In this lesson, you're going to learn to use benchmark fractions to compare fractions. Our standard is we're going to compare two fractions with different numerators and different denominators by creating common denominators or numerators, or by comparing to a benchmark fraction, and that's us today, such as 1/2. Our mathematical practice, we're going to reason abstractly and quantitatively. We're going to construct viable arguments and critique the reasoning of others. We're going to use appropriate tools strategically and attend to precision. Our focus is how can you use benchmark fractions to compare fractions? Well, what does that mean? Well, first of all, a benchmark fraction is a fraction that is easy to visualize, that is, be able to see and know and recognize, and of course, use. Juan read for 5/6 of an hour, and Larissa read for 1/3 of an hour. Which person read the longest? Now, at first glance, these two fractions are challenging. You're not sure which one is bigger or smaller, and we might need a benchmark fraction to help us out. So, if Juan read 5/6 of an hour, and Larissa read 1/3 of an hour, which one read the longest? Well, the benchmark fraction that we're going to use is 1/2. 1/2 is pretty easy to visualize. If we have a whole, we know that right in the middle there is 1/2. That would be our 1/2. So now we have to figure out, okay, 5/6. Is 5/6 smaller or greater than 1/2? And 1/3, same thing. Is it greater or smaller than 1/2? Well, let's start off with 5/6. 5/6 should be pretty easy. We'll take our same thing here, and if this is our halfway mark, and I know if I were to cut this up into 6 parts, and I would go ahead and shade 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So right there we can see that 5/6 is actually, which is right here, much bigger than 1/2. Let's try 1/3. So 1/3, we'll go ahead and draw right below it. And it'd be like here and here. And if we shade then our 1/3, so again, we can kind of easily see that 1/3, which is down here, is a lot less than 5/6, and it's less than our 1/2 mark. Hopefully that makes sense to you. So what we're saying is, if we look at our benchmark fraction to help us guide if it's smaller or bigger than each of these, we can easily see that really 5/6 is greater than 1/3, and we used the half fraction as our benchmark to help us figure it out. Let's try these. So go ahead and pause the video and see if you can figure out which of these is greater or less than. Good luck. Alright, how'd you do? Well, again, let's use 1/2 as our benchmark to see if each of these fractions is less than or greater than 1/2. And 3/8. Well, 3/8, we know, if we're talking about eighths, we know that actually that's the same as 4/8. 1/2 is the same as 4/8. So if we look at our number here, 3/8 is less than 1/2. So that helps us out a little bit. And let's take a look at 8/10. Well, we also know that 1/2 is the same as 5/10. How do we know that? What's half of 10? It's 5. So in this case, 8/10 is greater than 1/2. So we know that in this case, 3/8 is less than 8/10. Let's look at the next one. 1/3 and 3/4. Same thing. we know, let's see, 1/3. There is no equivalent, exact equivalent. It gets a little tricky to 1/2. But we do know 1/3 is less than 1/2, as we saw in the previous one right here. And then, of course, 3/4, we know that 2/4 is the same as 1/2. And since we have 3/4 here, which is more than that, that means 3/4 is greater than 1/2. So that's how we'd go here. So 1/3 is less than 3/4, and all we did is compared it to our benchmark fraction. How'd you do? Alright, now try some on your own. Good luck.